Hello everyone, and welcome to Reading to Life. My name's Jesse and today we're going to be talking about Replica by Lauren Oliver. Or is it Replica by Lauren Oliver? I want to start by saying I absolutely love Lauren Oliver's writing. From her YA debut Before I Fall, which is now a film in America and I'm desperately hoping it comes to the UK, through the Delirium trilogy, Panic, and now Replica. She creates rich worlds in unique and very special ways. So it's not an understatement to say I was absolutely thrilled to receive a copy of this last year. I kind of only read it recently though, which is quite bad. But Replica is definitely on as high a standard as her other books. Before I go too much into what Replica is all about, I want to show you something a little bit special about it. Now you've probably already seen this, but as we're talking about the book, we kind of can't really skip it. Replica is known as a flip book. In other words, it has two narratives. One that starts from the front and one that starts from the back. What that means is you can choose where you want to start reading this book and how you want to read it. For example, you could start with Lyra's story, and then once you've finished this, which is about halfway through the book, you can then flip and read Gemma's story. Or you can start with Gemma's story, and then once you finish this, flip the book over and read Lyra's story. Or, if you want to put in the effort, you can start with either story and then flip backwards and forwards between the two. Personally, I started with Lyra's story and then once I got to the end, switched to Gemma's story. And I think this has an effect on how I felt about the book, because Lyra's story is not as fast-paced or compelling and addictive as Gemma's story. Lyra's story is much more about the discovery of herself and her surroundings, whereas Gemma's story is much more addictive and compelling as she tries to solve a mystery and tries to get to the bottom of what's going on, which makes for a contradiction between how the narratives are told. You will see some narratives which cross over and are very similar as both stories are intertwined. There's a very clear difference between the pace of both stories, and I think your reading experience will be affected by the way in which you read this book. That being said, I think the best way to read this book will probably be to switch between the two narratives, because the two do balance. The way I read it, I got a very slow and discovery oriented story first and then the compelling, whereas if I read it alternating, I would have seen the difference between the settings, seen the different perspectives as the story moved along, and quite possibly got a more enjoyable experience. But the choice is yours how you read it, so it's up to you. But personally, I think I would have preferred it if I'd alternated chapters. So what exactly is Replica all about? Well, without giving too much away, it's clones, based at the Haven Institute, which is developing clones for some reason or another. We don't exactly know the reason at the start, and we're getting a clear idea by the end, but we're still not concrete, I don't think. And the two stories between Gemma and Lyra are closely related to Haven and what it's doing. Lyra's story starts inside the Haven Institute and is all about her discovering from the inside what it's all about, whereas Gemma's story starts outside the Haven Institute and trying to discover what it's all about from the outside, and it's up to the reader to kind of put together what's going on in their own heads. The story, the picture of the place will start coming together as you read the two stories. One of the things Lauren is very, very good at, aside from creating very compelling worlds, is creating very three-dimensional characters. And I love that we got to know all four of our main characters very well indeed over the course of the two stories. What I really loved is how the relationships of our four main characters changed as they discover more about themselves and more about each other. I also have to throw in a few very quick special mentions. My special mentions go to characters who, although aren't necessarily main characters, they still have a significant impact on the story or something about them which makes me want to give them a kind of shout out. My first special mention goes to Pete, who doesn't start out with the greatest reputation, and I have to say slightly undeserved reputation, something of a bit of a hero by the end. My second special mention goes to Jake Witz. He's continued on his dad's work about investigating and reporting the Haven Institute, and through this he kind of acts as a doorway of information for Gemma for finding out more about the Haven Institute, and therefore helps us to understand more about what's going on externally about the Haven Institute and what it's all about, and kind of helps us to build a picture of what's going on. Overall, Replica is a fab story. It has to be said it's not my favourite story of Lauren's. Before I Fall, the first Delirium and Panic are all so good, but it has all the elements you'd expect to find from a story from Lauren Oliver. The only thing I'd advise is choosing very carefully which order you read the stories in, as it will dramatically affect not only how you interpret the book, but your enjoyment of the book. If you like fast-paced, compelling and addictive stories, you will love Gemma. If you love compelling, character-rich, detailed and thoughtful stories, you will love Lyra. And if you love them both, switching between the two will probably be your best approach. Basically, I'm really looking forward to book 2 in this fabulous duology. On that note, we've just read The Life of Replica by Lauren Oliver. Until next time, I'll see you later.